Hello, welcome back. So at this stage now, we have identified that the two methods we have implemented already to load our pages and create our links are not very efficient, and we need to use our HT access to do so. So before we go to HT access, let me introduce you our main objective here. So what we want to do here is to change our header so that it will point to a controller. So we have to come here, change all that to their respective controllers. So we got register here, and we'll change that again to, finally, that goes to login. Okay, so all our links, our href attributes will be set to point to controllers. Likewise, our form elements, the action attribute for our form elements should also point to controllers. So we'll go back to that login form and change that accordingly. So this shows you what you are doing in bootstrapping. So it's either you want in module view controllers, the resource you are pulling up from your directory is a controller, a class name and method in that class, and not a file name. Okay, so by default, file name is the resources available you can use. But if you want to do a module view controller, you have to go inside that file and create a class instance from a class name in that file to use that to call your methods implemented in that controller. So that will be your resources. But to do so, you have to let Apache know that you want to do that. And that means you have to put some configurations in place to make that happen. And that configuration you have to put in place to make that happen is you do that using your HT access file. So that's what HT access file is. Alright. So now let me show you a copy of that HT access file. All you have to do, if you go, you should go and install one in your root folder. Alright. So you go to your root folder and make sure you got HT access there. Alright. And it's a configuration file that gives Apache Web Server the directives it needs to load your web applications. So the first time your web page loads, Apache Web Server will go to your root folder, look for HT access file. The first file it will look for is .ht access file. It has no name, just file extension. If there's any HT access file in place, it will go through that to check if there's any custom configuration on demand. And if there is, it will use that now to modify your httpd.com file, which is the main configuration file Apache used to load your modules. So once you have that in place, I'll show you a sample what it looks like here. So you have your modules to display your error messages, and you have set your rewrite engine on. So what I will do, I will just go ahead and use this variable now. That variable we are looking for is that get request variable to be sent to index.php web URL. It's a key. You can change that name to any name you like, but all of that strings will be left in place. So you set your index signal. What I will do a special video quickly on HT access, but for now let me carry on with how we can use this web. What we're after here is this get variable, how we can use that to design our application. So your write base is set to your root folder, and you want to send to your index.php in your root folder that get request variable. Alright, and you have turned your rewrite engine on. If you want to put a comment, use £, and all your comments will be on a separate line and should not be intermingled with your code. If you intermingle comments on the same line with your code, that will be misread and it won't work for the program will not work as you expected. So going back in the code, now that we've got that htaccess in our root folder, let me give you a test drive how powerful that is. And now what we want to do now, right, you see all this program we got in our init function, right, we can now use that to load our page. Okay, so by the time you get this variable, all you have to do here is to quickly break it up into array. So when you convert that to array, there's a PHP keyword that does that efficiently for you. What it does is to use the / as a separator to split that URL string into array. In that way, it's in the format you want it, like that. You see what we are doing? So effectively, you can just copy all that from there and paste it there. Your code will work. Okay. So what we have done, we've split it up into array, and we are using it to load our pages. Simple as that. Okay, so now that we've got our URL variable in place, and now we are assigning it to a local variable. So at this stage, let me also show you what you must bear in mind as well, because sometimes there are conditions that will throw error, and it may not be apparent at the beginning until that error occurs. So if I go ahead and save this file and pull up the browser and refresh, you see there's error, okay? Now, what that means, we are just grabbing that variable. We're not checking if it is set or not. So we have to put a condition in place to check if that get variable is set. All right. In other words, if somebody types any strings at the URL address bar, what we are doing here is if that is set, if that condition is true, assign it to a local variable to hold that. So your URL strings, this get variable now represent your URL strings, okay? And if there is no string attached at the URL bar, just equate that to null. Null is a posh way in PHP you can use to say nothing. So if the string is nothing, return it. If there is, return it. Either way, we are having something back. So with this code now, you can see literally we are doing the same thing as the init function, but we are using our get variable from htaccess file. This will now be able to load your pages for you. Okay, so if I save that, then go back and refresh, see that error is gone. So to load our pages now, all we have to do now is to manually type something at the address bar, like that, and that will load our login form. Okay, so we are now manually have to type something there that will load. So if we want to use our links now, all we can do, this string, you see this string you see here at the top, that's what you can use to create your links. You can use to create your links because we have set it up in our htaccess file. So let me quickly give you a demo how to do that. If you go to your header file, now simply append that string there, append it there, append it there. Leave that login just now because I've used this as an example. So we can use this index register tutorials link to load our pages. Okay. Simply come here and change that to index page coming soon. Change that to register. You will see register page coming soon. If you change that to tutorials, or if I just go ahead and click that link, it will do that for you. All right. So that's how powerful that htaccess is. Now we've got our variable. We can now use that to implement the conditions to load our pages and create our links. But this is not fully functional yet. So all we have to do is to, because I will not have time to do that here, I will do that in the next video, how to implement this function efficiently And we need to be doing a try-catch clause through exceptions when there is no class, when file is not found, or when method does not exist, or when there is error, what to do. So all these conditions now is what we have to put in place to load our pages. And to load our pages, all we have to do, require a file name, same name as the class name in that file, create instance of that class in that file, and use that class object to call your methods in that file. And also in the main controllers folder that will load the load model function. This will make that variable available for you to call methods defined in the load model classes. Alright, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.